Alright, well today is May 22nd, 2020. It's a Friday, and I wanted to show today this 2011 Jeremiah Weed Matt Kenseth 164 custom I'm making. I'm putting the last decal on. As you can see, it's sitting in the water, soaking for the trunk lid area, and it's coming around pretty good. But I do want to show you a couple challenges that this particular diecast presents as you try to put it together. So one of the important things that I try to do whenever I'm making a custom, and I'll show you here, is I got my laptop up and I got a picture of the Jeremiah Weed. Actually, I've got a couple of them that are sitting up there that I kind of scroll through. J-Ski is a great site. Motorsport is another great site for pictures of cars on a racetrack. But here, let me set the camera down, and I want to be able to kind of just show you a couple of the issues I ran into and how I overcame them, and how I kind of, as you do this, you kind of cover things up. So kind of like the 2010 Crown Royal, there's a little bit of, just the decal's just a little bit too big. And case in point is this hood decal. So this Jeremiah Weed is a one-piece decal. Well, okay, first of all, I painted this marigold Rust-Oleum and apply the decals over top. But this hood decal is obviously just a centerpiece of the whole car, and it's too big. It's too big. So what I had done was I had pre-painted the cowl black, but as I laid this on, there was no way that I was going to be able to apply this hood decal with the full cowl exposed and not have a problem with this grill being too low. The grill is the grill. It's where it is. You can move it maybe just a tiny bit down or a tiny bit up, but you really want to keep that straight. And this as well. So the sacrifice is the cowl. As you can see, I had to move this decal up above, overlapping the cowl, probably well over half of the cowl. And so there's just a little bit of black here, a little bit of black here. And then put that there. I trimmed it as much as I could on the top. I really can't trim on the bottom, and then placed it on the car. Probably could have lowered the grill just a little bit more, but you're really sacrificing the whole look of the car if you do that. So I just applied these decals to make sure I'm not moving anything. On the side, as you can see here, this is all one piece that comes across here, and I had to trim and kind of tuck this underneath. A little bit of the 3M and the Tissot decals get tucked, but that's the sacrifice you have to make on this particular car. A little bit of tuck here. I did have to trim this ever so slightly at the top here so it wouldn't come up against the rear spoiler. Placement and planning is important. This particular decal here goes behind, so you want to put that on first, and you got to straighten it. You got to kind of have this consistent line through here with this long dark red stretch. It kind of comes here down and then out the front, and it ends right there. So you want to get that lined up as best you can, and then you put your fog light and your front grill opening on, and your K&N, your Sunoco, and these side decals here. And then again, last is your Goodyear decals go on, trying to center them between here and here. On this side, really the same thing. This tucks a little bit here, and put that in place. Got this over here behind put that on first, and then you layer this stuff on top. The Goodyear goes in between at the end once you put all that all those other decals on. So come to the back here. So the back is a little bit of a pain. One of my difficulties in working some of these 2011, 2012, well, I can go back a little bit, I guess the 9, 10, 11, 12 Fusions, is these rear tail lights, they need to wrap around. See that? They kind of go and they kind of wrap around. So I use the micro sole to help soften up the decal, and then I put it in place. And so you can see it just barely comes around. The way that it works is it goes up on the spoiler. So what I'll do, once it dries, I'll put a couple coats of sealer on it, and then I'll paint over those areas so it kind of hides it. It's not perfectly straight because you want to get these to kind of line up together and be in the same place. When you're working with the micro sole, it softens them up, and it really, you kind of have to work quickly, get them in place, and then press them in, and so yeah, so this tucks around this side. Sorry if I'm getting a little bit off camera here. Tucks around over here, and then the last decal I put over top is this fuel door, which interestingly enough doesn't come with the decal set. I had to order some extra, which I did a long time ago, and so I have a bunch of these for that. Just some of the decal sets don't have all the little small decals, and over time you kind of build up a stock of them, and so I've got some. So that is in place, and it's kind of drawing in because I put some of the microsol on there, so it looks kind of indented a little bit. It's kind of cool. What was tight was this www.jeremiahweed.com logo that goes on the back here. It barely fits in there, so that's why these decals really need to be curved around the side, and then you put this one in, and it goes in between. Just barely fits. So yeah. So what I'll do, actually, I'll show you. I don't normally do this, but what's interesting on the pictures is this bottom area here is white. This bottom part of this was a splitter, but I call it a valence. This bottom part's actually white. So I'm going to do that. Here, I tell you what. Let's not get ahead of myself here. Let's put this decal on the trunk. The decal set comes with some extra decals, and you can see how large that is. That's just not going to work on this. You have to trim it down and size it up so it's gonna fit nicely there. And I tried to do that with this one. So let's get this on. I don't really need micro sole here, I don't believe. And you can see how this decal really helps with the straight line for the spoiler. Got a little exposed gold there, but I can touch that up with a black, and the back end of my my X-Acto knife will do that. So it's a little big over here up against the window, but what I can do is I can tuck that in ever so slightly, and if it's really too far over, again, I'll take my X-Acto knife once it dries, and I'll just trim it. Just real carefully trim it. Okay, let me get a different angle here. And I like to use my clean hands to work some of these ridges, this little back ridge here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little ridge here. And I'm just pressing the decal. I trimmed my fingernails from yesterday. And just kind of push down, push any little bit of water that's out from underneath there and get the decal to stick there. You saw my hand, maybe you did, but it stuck to my hand just a little bit. So you get it in place and kind of give it time to dry. And yeah, so that'll be pretty good. Okay. And that's really all the decals for that. One other thing on this roof decals, this thing, again, this is extra decals that came with the decal set for whatever reason. The roof is curved. You can see it's curved here, ever so slightly. So when I size, again, you have to size it up. I just trimmed the front edge of that decal like that with my scissors, and turned out pretty good. Right across here. If I didn't trim it, you know, it would kind of hang over onto the windshield. You don't want that, it looks dumb. You want it to conform as best as you can to the actual car. And so kind of the art of trimming the decals to match the die-cast body, to look as close as it can to what was driven on the track. I mean, that's a skill. It takes time, you know, patience, and you know, just a little bit of experience screwing up. And so my point is, don't just cut the decals off the decal sheet and dip them in the water and then put them on the car. You really need to look at everything very closely if you want a top-notch die-cast. You notice I didn't say top-shelf die-cast, but a top-notch die-cast that you'll be, you know, really proud to put into your collection. So just want to make sure I'm not moving anything. Okay. So let me shake up this white paint pen. Kind of already have it flowing a little bit. Let me show you how I paint this front here. Let's move the camera just a little bit up, a little bit more. Alright, so I'm probably going to need to put 2 or 3 coats on here. But I'm sorry if you can't see this. I'm just doing this. Really living dangerously here, because I don't have any sealer on these decals. If I were to slip and hit it, I would completely ruin the car. So yeah, you know, sometimes you gotta live dangerously. Alright, it's, you know, like I said, 2 or 3 coats. It's not very bright right now because it's just the first coat. But after I let the decals dry and seal it, I like to seal between paint coats too. I don't want to let the paint dry and then seal it or put another paint. I like to put a coat of sealer on there first, because it not only does it seal it, give it a glossy finish, but it also gives it a smooth covering, so that when my brush, when this paint pen goes across it the second time, it's smooth, and it adds another layer of thickness and depth to the color. yeah, it's going to be nice. So, yeah. All right, well, that's the Jeremiah Weed. Moving into the drying stage, and then we'll be able to seal that up, and this will also be an eBay auction at the end of the day. That's probably going to be next week by the time I get to it. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I got a little dark on the 17 there. I'll have to clean that up. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Like I said, I don't drink alcohol, but I like these alcohol sponsors because, they're starting to put them on little display stands now, so that justifies them as an adult 164. But back in the day, they weren't allowed to make the 164s with alcohol sponsors, and so yeah, I can make these Crown Royals and Jeremiah Weeds for a while because, again, you just can't get them anywhere. And there's still a number of Matt Kenseth fans out there that want one of these for their 164 collection. So, okay, you guys have a wonderful day. I'm gonna let that dry, and I'll probably start working on this Pink Eco Boost a little bit later today. So, God bless you all. Have a great one.